Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my podcast. It's been a while, uh, but I figured, you know what? It's been so busy, one thing after another, one thing after another. And I think that happens in life sometimes. We get so busy doing so many things and with family and responsibilities. And I said, you know what? Let me stop. Let me just go ahead and download a video. Normally I like to write things down, take notes, but today I said, you know what? Let me just go ahead. Let me just do freestyle and see what I come up with. And I like to talk about my experience. I like to talk about things that I go through, struggles, anything like that, because I'm sure that I'm not the only one. And I'm sure that there are so many of you out there that perhaps are in need of listening to these type of topics. So, me, I'm a person that I like to have everything, organized. And I like to take notes. I have to If I'm gonna go grocery shopping, I like to take a list with me, cross off, and of course, one thing that I have is every time I go shopping, I always end up getting a little extra or seeing something that I wasn't planning on buying and it's not on my list, but I have to have it. So, but I need to make a list. So I'm a type of person that I'm always writing things and jotting down, uh, especially for my time management. I like to do my agenda and what's priority, prioritize the things that I need to do. Because of course we all just don't have to do one thing. We have to do many things. So me as a mother, a wife, I work, I always like to write down. So I'll put today's day, write down number one, what's the first thing I have to do, number two, and so forth. And then I start marking it off as I complete them. And sometimes I don't get to a task. So then, of course, that will be my priority for the next day and so forth. So you might be wondering, why is she talking about this? So as I was, thinking and reflecting on everything, I, um, my husband sometimes makes fun of me and he's like, stop micromanaging us, stop micromanaging, because I'm very picky with things. And, I like things to be done a certain way, or I'm a person that I'm always thinking of head of the game. If I'm going to do something, I'm already thinking, you know, how am I going to do it? How I expect it to come out? What's the outcome that I expected to come out? And that's the way I've always been. But sometimes I think that we put a little bit of too much stress on ourselves, or we may be our worst critic. And I say this from my personal experience because I think that sometimes I may be very hard on myself. If something doesn't go right as I planned, I will be very hard on myself, and perhaps maybe I will blame myself for it. I will start analyzing, and maybe sometimes it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with what I did or what I didn't do. But I always have to, I always say, maybe I should have done this. Maybe I didn't do that. Or perhaps I shouldn't have done that. And so that's what I do. But then in reality is I have to think and say, it's not all about me. It's not all, the reality is that we cannot always be in control of everything because life happens, right? Um, and have you ever heard that saying that say you cannot cover the world with the palm of your hand, or you can't do, in other words, you can't do everything. And my husband always tells me that. Sometimes he's like, Brenda, you can't be hard on yourself. You cannot take care of everything. But I feel like I should. And then that's when I have to realize and I have to stop and reflect. And, sometimes things don't happen as I planned, or for me, my children's happiness is very important. My family's happiness is very important. Um, and I feel like I have to make sure that everybody's comfortable, you know? And sometimes I think that could cause a little problem because I'm so making sure that everybody's okay, everybody's comfortable, everybody's happy. And then when things don't go as planned, then that's when I blame myself. Why didn't things go as planned? Why didn't I do this? And then I'm hard on myself. But why am I doing this talk? How many of you are almost the same way or the same way? That you are your worst critic and you are so hard on yourself, and perhaps that everything that happens you blame yourself, when you literally have nothing to do with the outcome, you have nothing to do with what happened, but yet at the same time you always blame yourself. Now I'm telling you today, if you are out there and you are this way, I'm telling you to stop right now. I want you to stop. I want you to drop what you're doing. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to take a deep breath and breathe out. And I want you to just let all of those worries, all of that stress, all of that tension out. And I want you to remember that life happens. That life is about learning from the experience, but it doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect. Sometimes, I'm a perfectionist, and it's good and it's bad at the same time. Things have to be just right. And if someone asks me to give them something, but it's just not, it doesn't meet my expectations, I'm not happy with it, I will not give it to the person. Even if they might say, that's okay, maybe it's missing one thing. Nope, it has to be just right. It can't be crooked. It can't be, no, it has to be just right. And you know what? Sometimes that puts a lot of stress on you. And sometimes I think life could be complicated as it is sometimes. And sometimes we add, or I would say I add more stress to myself than I need to, than necessary. So we have to just really, really go ahead and take a deep breath. Now, one of the things is that my faith in God has helped me through so much. And sometimes, God has to remind me, and he has to say, wait a minute, you're not in control. I am. That stress or that worry that you're going through, leave it in my hands. How many times have they been a problem? And here Brenda comes, I try to jump in and I'm like, I have to solve this problem. I have to take care of it. And you know what? There are times that we don't have the answers. There are times that for certain things we cannot handle it. But you know what? The beautiful thing about God is that when we've already tried and we cannot figure something out, we cannot find the solution for something, God says, okay, now is my turn. Now step away. That is my turn. I am stepping in now. And I think that's very important for me to be reminded, Brenda, it's not all about you. It's not that no one expects you to be perfect. No one expects you to know everything. No one expects you to be right 100% all the time, because the reality is, it's just not going to happen. So if we're not going to happen, we have to put expectations, but we have to put realistic expectations. And sometimes I may put things that are unrealistic on myself. I might demand too much of myself. And why, I decided to talk about this because I was talking to someone and it was so funny because this person felt, she sounded so disappointed. Things didn't go her way or the way she expected to come out. She felt like she failed somewhere along the way. And in my mind, I was listening to her, but inside of me, I was smiling. And I was smiling because I was like, oh, Brenda, look, listen, just listen to her. That sounds just like you. And and the beautiful thing about the Lord and everything that I have and I am and the things that I've learned and the strength that I have gotten along the way through difficult moments has been because God has been there. And he always reminds me and says, Brenda, why are you so hard on yourself? It is time for you to let go, really let go. Because in reality, how many times is it that I'm saying, okay, God, it's in your hands. That's it. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. But yet I don't give it to him. I hang on to it. And there are times it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you are not wise enough. It doesn't mean that you don't have the knowledge enough to solve the problem or find a solution. It's just that sometimes in reality it's not, it's out of our hands. It's out of our hands. And that's things that I have to learn. When things are not going right, or someone I know is going through a problem, I feel that is my responsibility that I have to find a solution for that. And I got to find help. And when I feel like it's out of my way or I can't, it's out of my hands and I can't do that, then I start feeling being hard on myself. Brenda, why you can't do it? Why you have to. And you know what? That's when God says, you can't, but I can. You cannot find the solution, but I can. And that's when we have to learn to really rest in God. God is so beautiful. He teaches us to rest in him. And what does it mean when we say rest in him? What does that mean? It means that we're going to leave all our worries in God's hands completely and say, Lord, here it is. You're in control. Do as you will. And I'm just going to go along with the ride. How many times have you gone through problems in your life when you literally feel that you are swimming, but you are swimming against the current? And you feel like you can see yourself at a point where you know that that's where you want to get, but you're swimming and swimming and swimming, and you just feel like instead of getting closer to your goal or where you want to reach, you're getting further away. And that's when we are swimming against the current. Not always is our time. Sometimes we may want to see results so quickly, but we don't always see the results that fast. And it is all because it's about the timing. Now, if you believe in God and you believe in God's promises and you know that God has the power to change things around and make a way when we see that there isn't any, or open a door when there aren't any doors open, when you really believe and you learn to trust in him, because that's such a big difference to learn to trust in God. That means that you're going to allow him to take care of you, allow him to take care of your worries 100%, not a little bit. And it's amazing how today you ask people, so many people might say, yes, I believe in God, I believe in God, but how many people know God? That is the big difference. When you know God, Just like a friend, okay? Or let's say, for example, I work in a huge company, let's say, and I might say, oh, I know so and so, but that doesn't mean that I really know that person. I probably saw that person walking around in the hallways. We probably shared a coffee, here and there in the cafeteria or in a restaurant as a company gathering. But I really don't know that person. I don't know their family. I don't know what they like, what they don't like. Um, I haven't been there when they have gone through rough moments. So that's the difference between you believe in God, but today I ask you, do you know God? It is so important to know God, to know who He is, because when you do that, you are able to put your complete trust in Him. And I have seen God's glory throughout my journey. I have seen Him moving in my life, in moving in my family's life, in friends' life, and I have seen His divine hand manifest Himself in our lives in such a very special way. But when we are able to say, I let go and I trust in God, that might seem to sound simple, but in reality, it's very deep. The depth that it has when you say, I trust in God, we must learn to trust, truly trust, and let go. And that's one thing that I have to say. I'm talking about it right now. And I'm not saying it is easy and I do it all the time. Because in reality, oh gosh, God has to remind me, about letting go and leave it in His hands. Because when I can't, He can. Because it could be really rough. I could be stubborn. Yes, I can. I could be stubborn. And my husband sometimes tells me that, but he doesn't say it in a bad way. He just tries to tell me, you have to let go. You have to remember, when things don't go right, just don't blame yourself all the time, because you really had nothing to do with things that are going right. You do the best that you can. And once um, you feel or you see that you can't take care of the problem or resolve the problem, then that's when you say, okay, God, here it is. I can't, but you can. So I just wanted to say this little soft talk, this little small talk, nothing big. I just wanted to encourage you to remember that God is so great that when you can't, He can. He just wants us to trust in Him. Don't be too hard on yourself. Things are not always going to happen or go as planned. There's always things going to happen unexpectedly. And you know what? That's life. Life happens. And that saying, life happens, it's so true. So we have to learn and say, you know what? I take a deep breath. I let it out. And I believe that things are going to change. And instead of me going against the current, trying to go, I'm just going to go with the flow, and I'm going to believe. And that's what we have to do. Trust in God, my dear friend. If you've had your hard moments, believe in God. Do not go against the current anymore. Remember, things are not happening the way you plan. Well, that life happens. Trust in God. Believe it. Do not give up. Don't be hard on yourself. And remember, Jesus loves you. God bless. Till next time. Bye.